Welcome to The World Awaits.
Travel tales to inspire your wanderlust.
I'm Kirsty Bedford, journalist, editor and travel writer.
And I'm Belinda Jackson, author, travel journalist and columnist, and we're your weekly co-hosts.
Welcome back to The World Awaits. How are you all?
Hey everyone.
This week we're talking sleep. So new research from Hilton Australasia has revealed that Australians rank a good night's sleep as one of the most important elements for an enjoyable experience at a hotel, putting sleep quality top of the agenda when travelling. Getting some decent shut-eye was ranked against the traditional requirements for an enjoyable hotel stay like location, ambience, hotel service and health and wellness facilities, and was identified as one of the most crucial elements for travellers. You'd agree with that, wouldn't you, Kirsty?
Oh my God, I love my sleep. And so it's definitely a factor for me when travelling or actually any other time. So some interesting stats came out of the research. So 39% of travellers reported 6 hours or less sleep a night. Gosh, people only have 6 hours or less sleep a night. What? That'd be you, wouldn't it, Belle?
No, I sleep like the dead. I can sleep underwater.
22% specifically look for blackout curtains and soundproofing when booking a room, and 20% of Australians request rooms away from elevators on a high floor, or they request sleep accessories from reception like eye masks or earplugs. I always have my own.
Oh, that's really interesting about the elevators and the high floors. I don't even think about it because I don't have a problem sleeping. I sleep where I stand. But this is really interesting because 44% of Australians say they have chosen to stay at a particular hotel due to the quality of their mattresses, bedding and linens, which I actually kind of love a good linen. I do actually, check the label on it. Yeah. But also 90% of Australians agree that the environment of a hotel room, the furnishings, the temperature and noise levels have a large impact on their sleep. I totally agree with this bit because, when the room's too hot or too cold, it is really frustrating, and you can't control the temperature is a really big thing for me, and I can't sleep. It's a bit of an Oscar Wilde thing. Either that wallpaper goes or I do. So I get the furnishings.
Well, as far as the temperature goes, I do also find that when I stay somewhere for only one night, I find it really challenging because it takes me the first night to get the temperature right. So then if I'm only somewhere one night, I never particularly sleep all that well the first night. But then if I stay there for 2 nights, then of course you've got the room temperature sorted and you sort of know, you get a much better sleep. But as we were saying before, I do actually wear an eye mask, and I do often also take earplugs when I travel. And
the princess.
Yeah. Got to make sure you get that sleep. So Hilton's head of Australasia, Paul Hutton, says it's increasingly seeing travellers selecting hotels based on the environment of the hotel room, and research has found most people have specific bedtime routines and rituals to wind down and elevate their sleep quality. My hand's up here.
Oh, really? Okay. Me, it's just reading until I
read.
Sleep. So I think the light thing, the light thing is a really tricky. When you can't find the right light to read. Maybe that's my sleep ritual. I don't know. But he also says that it might be other things people are doing is regulating their workout routines, avoiding alcohol, caffeine, or devices before bed. No to any of these. Taking hot showers or baths, drinking herbal teas, or listening to music or white noise. It matters where you stay.
I'm a bit of a sleep geek, and I do drink herbal tea before I go to bed and read a book. And so I am a bit of a sleep geek. But I guess in hotels, this is where things like a pillow menu come in. You know how a lot of hotels have pillow menus? I've never actually asked to use the pillow menu. I don't know why. I think the pillows have always been sort of adequate enough as they are. Or of course,
sometimes when they're so big and you're kind of sitting half up at night, that's my pet hate on a pillow. I'm a low profile sleeper. I have realised I'm gonna embrace the pillow menu. I'm gonna do it. But so what about you? Have you had a really bad night due to sleep?
No, I was also going to say, so the other thing that you can do is, and you may have heard me mention this in a previous podcast, but there's this incredible Australian business called Sleep Keeper, and you can actually take your own pillow on holiday with you. And I really, truly do believe it makes a big difference because if you've got neck issues or if you just are sleeping in multiple places, who wants to be sleeping on multiple pillows? I mean, you don't even know who slept on those pillows. I mean, the bed's one thing, right? But you've usually got pajamas on. Well, most people do. But, sleeping...
Stop it. I'm in a hotel tomorrow night. Don't do this to me.
I do like taking my own pillow. And so these... if you listen back, you'll hear me talking about this. It was in that Varuna episode. I can't remember who we interviewed. I talked about these incredible covers that are made that you can just slip your pillow in and it reduces it to a certain size and you just roll it up and away you go. So have a look at sleepkeeper.com.au. That's where you can find information about that incredible pillow cover. But so away from the pillows. So yes, I have, to answer your question, Belle, I have had a terrible night. Actually, from memory, one of the worst nights that I had when I was away was when I had, I'm not sure how to describe this, overactive neighbours in a Perth hotel. And I did ask for another room in the end, only because this is really bad. But initially, I thought they were rocking a baby to sleep. And
Yes.
and then I suddenly realised my naivety over time, realised that, gosh, this baby's taking a really long time to get to sleep.
Oh God! I was trying to think of my hotel bed experiences. I do struggle with the big pillow. I had the same experience. It was a hotel that allowed up to 4 people to stay in a room, and so similar kind of thing.
Really?
Double the amount of people involved.
Swingers in the room next to you. Oh my gosh, Val, this podcast has taken a complete turn.
I have nothing against swingers, but just
Don't help you.
a girl needs to sleep. A girl needs.
You're listening to The World Awaits. We'd love it if you could leave us a rating and review on your favourite podcast platform.
This week, I chat to author, travel journalist and co-founder of slow and sustainable travel platform Life Unhurried, Celeste Mitchell, about why we're looking to travel more slowly, what it means for your travelling experience, and where you can go to do it. Welcome to the show, Celeste.
Thank you so much for having me, Kirsty.
So great to have you on The World Awaits. Let's start by tell us a bit about your background and how you got into travel.
Well, I studied journalism and I made my start in magazines down in Sydney. So I was there for close to a decade, mostly in youth titles. So I worked on things like Girlfriend, TV Hits and Total Girl. So my world was all, following the tween stars. So it was quite a bit different to what I do now in travel. But I wanted to move back to Queensland and I just thought, what am I going to do there? And the idea of working for Tourism and Events Queensland was really appealing, and I managed to score a position in the publicity team there. So I actually worked for a few years in tourism PR, which really showed me the ropes from that side of the fence. And when I left to go freelance in 2013, I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could, maybe write one travel story a year, just in amongst other writing jobs. And funnily enough, I was speaking with the editor of Escape at the time, and he offered me to go on a trip to the Cook Islands. And so I actually flew to the Cook Islands the day after I finished at that job, and I've been writing for them ever since. So, so about 10 years now, I've been working as a freelancer, and I write regularly for Escape, Australian Traveller, Travel and Luxury in the Australian, Explore, and lots of other magazines as well. But I've also, during that time, it's not just all travel stories. I edited the blog for Tourism and Events Queensland for about 5 years. I did a lot of rewriting website copy and brochures for companies like Top Deck Travel. And also at one stage, my husband and I opened a co-working space on the Sunshine Coast where we live. So it was very busy and also traveling a lot during that time.
Amazing. And isn't it funny how quickly the goalposts change once you get that one story? It's like, that's not enough anymore. So tell us why you decided to launch Life Unhurried, and tell us a bit about what it's about first.
Yeah, sure. So Life Unhurried is basically an online platform that is all centered around slow and sustainable travel and living. And basically it's as you can kind of tell, it came out of a space of just being completely busy and overwhelmed. And it's two friends and myself. We'd sort of had the domain name for a couple of years, and we just thought it's such a great name. We love the concept of slow travel. We'd like to do something for ourselves at some stage. And I was in Mexico actually, because my husband and I did an extended trip after we got married and spent 3 months in Europe and 3 months in Mexico. And I was still working the whole time, but I gave myself a week off. And it was like during that time, I just thought, right, we need to make a start now. If we don't, it'll be another, 5 years down the track. And so I came back from that trip in 2018, and we made a commitment to just start working 1 day a week on it together. And we just basically set out to create an editorial platform. We started writing blog posts and creating videos focusing on beautiful slow stays and experiences that really resonated with us, and, conversations with people that were choosing to live a life more unhurried. We always knew that we wanted to include an accommodation directory with the site. And so in mid-2020, we launched Slow Stays, and that is basically a curated collection of properties from around Australia, but it will be eventually the world. And it's basically designed to save travellers time. So they know that rather than trawling through Airbnb for hours or trying to find these really special stays, they can come to Life Unhurried and they'll find the types of properties that tick all those boxes for a really slow, conscious stay. So we either seek out those properties or they apply, and then we assess them on a combination of factors that tie back to that slow ethos, as well as the sustainability measures that they have in place. And then rather than it being a booking site, we refer those potential guests directly to them so that it sort of cuts out that commission that they might pay on the bigger OTAs.
So cool. And it's such a great name, Life Unhurried. So how did you find those very first properties to feature? Did you just because you liked staying at places like that, or, and how did you know? Because you can't stay at every place that you're going to write about or feature, obviously.
No, well, yeah, I mean, it purely come from spending a lot of time on trawling Airbnb ourselves and Instagram and just looking. I guess I'm fortunate in the type of work that I'm doing. I'm coming across new properties, but it was really seeking out the lesser known and the new, unique stays that were popping up at the time. So, if we rewind back to, that 2018 period, it wasn't as common to have, the bubble tents and, there's one place we went to because you stay in a reused grain silo, or, staying on a houseboat or a little off-grid cabin in the woods. And so we were trying to find these really interesting places and then, getting in touch with them so that we could go and help to tell their story. And so that was some of the first Slow Stays videos that we did. And that was that created the basis for it. And it actually went through, as well as doing the directory on the site. We have also published a coffee table book, which is called Life Unhurried as well. And so within that has 50 properties from around Australia, and it has a real variety of those types of stays. Some are old train carriages that have been reworked into beautiful stays, or, vintage caravans. There's a whole sort of different mix of styles.
And what a great way to collate. And like you say, because you were probably a little ahead of your time, weren't you? Were there many in the beginning when you were looking around? Were there many, or has it kind of just taken off in the last sort of 5 years?
There were certainly some that were already becoming well known, a few properties around Australia, but nothing like the scale that we see now. Obviously, the pandemic had a huge part to play in that. As I say, we launched the directory in 2020, and the world had changed significantly. And the one benefit of that is that people started looking inwards. They started looking at where they could travel at home, and they also wanted to support those smaller rural and regional areas. And so, that not only delivered travellers to those existing stays, but it provided a lot of people with inspiration for creating their own stays. And so certainly in places like Tasmania, we've seen just an absolute explosion of new slow stays, new Airbnb properties that have opened up in the past few years. this past 12 months has probably been more challenging for some of them because, suddenly people can travel overseas again. And so it's, looking at how you can have that experience at home, but also the exciting thing for us is now looking beyond and, to some of the destinations internationally that we want to showcase where people are seeking a similar style.
So explain a little bit about what a slow stay is. So obviously off-grid is pretty obvious, and you've got lots of sort of unique stays, but what makes them slow stays?
Well, yes, off-grid, it doesn't necessarily need to be off-grid. We sort of separate it down almost like two columns. So we have like the slow stay, I guess, boxes that it can tick, and then the sustainable column as well. So, not everyone ticks everything on both columns. It's looking at, how weighted it is across both. So some are completely off-grid, they're eco-certified, they're doing just incredible things with working with local First Nations communities, totally self-sufficient on their own property type of thing. And then others, may not tick all of those boxes from a sustainability point of view, but, they're in a really remote location, or they're really supporting the local community, or they're in a beautiful nature setting where you can have a truly, relaxing, slow stay. It's ultimately about places where you know that you can go and you'll be able to switch off and really reset, and there'll be a varying degree of those elements that make it a more conscious stay.
And are you seeing more and more people wanting this? I mean, we touched on it sort of a little bit before, but obviously post-pandemic, people are seeking, to go back to and realising how busy and rushed life was pre-pandemic. So things have changed drastically. But what are you seeing what sort of things are people looking for? And are there specific geographic areas that people are maybe focusing more on?
I think the regional areas are still very hot. Like, we see that people are still travelling, particularly in places like regional New South Wales, all along the coast. Tassie might be slightly quieter in the past 12 months. But I think people are still, not everyone can afford to go overseas at the moment. And, as much as we would like it to be that people are totally driven from a sustainability point of view, I think what is more driving it is wellness. And that's a big part of what, the reason for wanting to do focus slow travel as well is it's actually about mental health and about well-being. It's about realizing that we all live really busy, hyper-connected lives, and it's really important to take moments to get away and to have that time to reset. And so places that facilitate that, I believe, are really important, and increasingly so. And that's where we're starting to see trends like stays that now have their own private sauna, perhaps, or, they're working with a local chef who's able to create a really beautiful, nourishing, organic meal while you stay at the property. Or, they're really working with local suppliers to provide, guided meditations or, different experiences like that. So I would say when we've surveyed slow stays owners, what they're seeing from their guests, it is about staying longer and looking after their health and well-being.
And what are some ways that people can genuinely sort of slow the pace and be more sustainable when they travel?
Well, I think, first of all, for me, slow travel is a mindset. So it's something all-encompassing. I believe that when you slow down, you can see more. So, one example of that is just maybe going to one place and staying longer instead of trying to go to 3 different places in a week. But it's also about the food choices that you make, the people that you meet along the way. And I think it impacts the travel experience immensely when you purposely slow down. And that's why we're seeing those trends like digital detoxes, phone-free travel, the resurgence of rail travel now, because we're all really craving that slow time. But from a practical point of view, and we actually have some of these tips in the book because, as silly as it sounds, it's like some people actually really struggle to slow down. I I think one of the biggest ways is to stop being so connected to devices. Constantly following that jam-packed itinerary of hotspots that we've saved from Instagram is, and then they're documenting every moment along the way. It's no wonder that people come home needing a holiday from their holiday. So it's just things like, read a real book, keep a journal, talk to each other at dinner rather than being on your phone. You could even look at doing like a phone-free day within the trip, or even if it's a phone-free hour, just making a conscious choice to disconnect and be more immersed in the place where you are. Food is a big one. Like I said, we all know about the slow food movement, but there's so many benefits for, shopping at local markets, supporting, small businesses and cooking and eating mindfully. You're not just grabbing food from, the takeaway as you rush around. So you're cutting down on your single-use plastics and you're having a more enriching experience as well. Getting into nature is obviously a huge one. Anything that you can center around nature, like multi-day hikes, are obviously perfect for that. Because we all know that appreciating nature, it leads you to protect it. So if we're putting that at the forefront, we're making conscious choices along the way already. And I think having kids has actually taught me this is just about like not setting your expectations so high. Like if you have one thing that you are going to, one thing planned for the day and you get to do that, then that's amazing. And just have some space to see what else happens, and slow it down that much where you can just be a bit more free in your itinerary.
It's such good tips, and so many of those things you can do in your day-to-day life. You don't even have to travel. That can make a real difference to your mental health, like you were saying. What are some of the best places that you've traveled, or some of the best experiences that you've had in slow or sustainable travel, or a bit of both?
I've been fortunate that there's been quite a few, especially in the last few years. One that really comes to mind recently is a place called Ecopia Retreat, which is on Kangaroo Island, off of South Australia. And the special thing about Ecopia is it's one of our properties that is completely off-grid. It's also a rammed earth. They have 2 rammed earth villas. And so, that has been hand-built, with earth from the property. And it's not only luxurious inside, but it's set on a private wildlife conservation. So you're there and all you need to do is step outside and you're in this beautiful native forest with kangaroos and wallabies, koalas in the trees. There's glossy black cockatoos flying past. But inside you light the fire. There's a beautiful bottle of local wine from the island, and they've got these gorgeous big windows so you can still have that immersion and be connected to nature while you're inside. And that was such a big part of the entire Kangaroo Island experience for me. I know that you can go into the national park and the places where everyone else goes, but this was like a really private, special experience in the centre of the island.
Oh my gosh, well, it sounds amazing. I want to go there. And we'll put a link to that and links to your where people can access that from your website in the show notes too.
Thank you.
Tell us, our last question we ask all of our guests is, because unfortunately we're running out of time, is tell us the most bizarre thing that's ever happened to you on your travels.
It's not too out there, but the main one that sprung to mind for me was that I've always wanted to live in New York City. So for my 30th birthday, I booked an apartment on the Lower East Side for a month. And so I could just spend a month there and feel like I was living there. But it happened to be when Hurricane Sandy hit. So I was there during that experience, woke up, trees down everywhere, people scrambling to buy candles from makeshift roadside stalls. And my apartment had no power or hot water for 5 days. So basically all of the plans went out the window, and I just spent those 5 days kind of wandering the streets, the mostly abandoned streets, hunting for power points, huddling outside the Starbucks stores, trying to get the Wi-Fi to call home. And, it all fell apart, but it was really one of the most memorable parts of the trip, like cold showers and all.
Well, it certainly slowed you down, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, look, it's been so great chatting with you. And like I said, we'll put all the links in the show notes. And I look forward to keeping up to date with what's happening with Life Unhurried.
Thank you so much.
I loved Celeste's tips on how to slow down when you travel. We know some of these things, but we rarely put them into practice. And as you say, Kirsty, they are things you can not only apply on holiday, but at home too. For more info, see lifeunhurried.com. Our tip this week is from Rail Europe about how you can make your next train journey more enjoyable. So it's listed the top questions that the company has asked, and we have all the answers for you. So question number 1 is, should I get point-to-point tickets when travelling in Europe or a rail pass? So generally, for itineraries that involve a handful of cities, a rail pass might be more cost-effective. Rail passes offer travellers a lot more flexibility than point-to-point tickets, as the latter is attached to a fixed departure date and time, and passes often don't require seat reservations on many regional trains. So you can simply hop onto any train whenever they're ready to go. Passes also allow users to enjoy unlimited travel for each day on the pass within 24 hours from midnight to midnight. And for families, Eurail passes offer free travel for up to 2 children under 11 years old per adult pass holder, while children under 16 travel for free when accompanied by an adult using the Swiss Travel Pass. And rail passes also have often got discounts and bonuses attached to them to things like restaurants and ferries, so you can save up to 70% just by booking well in advance.
And the second question that they're often asked is about whether seat reservations are required for Eurail passes. So seat reservations are determined by the operator and the type of train used. And as a general rule of thumb, reservations are required for trains that are high speed or operating international, cross-border, panoramic and overnight routes. Local or regional trains don't usually require a seat reservation, and in fact, most trains across Europe don't require seat reservations, just for when you're doing day travel.
And another common question is, how do you keep a record of places you've visited? And the best way to do this is via the Rail Planner app, where you can easily refer back to travel itineraries at any time. The map and the itinerary can also be exported and shared via email or WhatsApp, which is really cool if you've got a group that you're travelling with together. So to do that, go to the My Trips section in the app, click on the 3 dots located on the top right-hand corner, and select the most suitable sharing option. And for more info on rail trips across Europe, go to raileurope.com.
And if you would like to help support our production costs, you can buy us a coffee at coffee.com/theworldawaits. That's ko-fi.com/theworldawaits. So we can continue to bring you inspirational travel interviews with the world's best.
That's a wrap for The World Awaits this week. Click to subscribe anywhere you listen to your favourite pods. And where can people find you, Kirsty?
I'm at Kirsty Writes on Instagram. That's KIRSTIE Writes, WRITES. And where can people find you, Belle?
You can find me at globalsalsa.com or on Insta at global_salsa.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.